The Meridian Club's penthouse shimmered under the weight of Manhattan's elite, a glittering mosaic of wealth and influence gathered for the Whitmore Foundation's annual charity gala. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across polished marble floors, reflecting off champagne flutes and diamond cufflinks as the city's most powerful families mingled. The air buzzed with the hum of polite conversation, the clink of glasses, and the subtle rustle of designer gowns. At the center of it all stood the Whitmore family, James, senior patriarch and chairman of Whitmore Industries, his silver hair gleaming as brightly as his Rolex. Victoria, his daughter and CEO, her emerald gown a statement of authority. Catherine, his wife clutching a pearl necklace that seemed to anchor her to the room's opulence, and Marcus Jr., the youngest, already scrolling through his phone, ready to capture the evening for his Instagram followers. The gala was more than a fundraiser. It was a stage for the Whitmores to announce a transformative $1 billion partnership with Meridian Industries, a deal that would cement their legacy in education reform and secure their place among America's corporate dynasties. The room pulsed with anticipation, every guest aware that tonight's announcement would ripple through boardrooms and newsrooms alike. Yet beneath the polished surface, an undercurrent of exclusivity ran deep, a silent agreement among the elite that only a certain caliber belonged in this marble and crystal world. Enter Dr. Malcolm Carter. A black man in a tailored but unassuming navy suit, his presence quiet yet commanding as he stepped into the penthouse. His understated steel watch caught the chandelier light, a subtle contrast to the ostentatious jewelry around him. Malcolm moved with the ease of someone accustomed to high-stakes environments, his eyes scanning the room with a blend of curiosity and calculation. He carried a simple black leather portfolio, its contents unremarkable to the casual observer, but heavy with purpose. As he approached the check-in table, the event staff hesitated, their smiles faltering as they scanned their guest list. "Sir, could you confirm your name?" a young woman in a black blazer asked, her tone polite, but edged with doubt. Malcolm offered a calm smile, his voice steady. "Dr. Malcolm Carter." The name didn't seem to register. The staffer's fingers hovered over her tablet, her brow furrowing as she scrolled. A second staffer leaned in, whispering something inaudible, and the first woman's expression tightened. "I'm sorry, sir, I don't see you on the list," she said, her voice now tinged with formality. Malcolm's smile didn't waver. "Perhaps you could check again," he suggested, reaching into his portfolio and producing a cream-colored invitation card with gold embossing. The staffer took it, her eyes darting to the security guards stationed nearby, their earpieces crackling softly. The exchange caught the attention of Victoria Whitmore, who glided over her emerald gown, trailing like a royal decree. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice cutting through the champagne chatter like a blade. Her eyes locked onto Malcolm, assessing him with a practiced glance that lingered on his suit, well-made but not ostentatious, lacking the flashy brand names that signaled wealth in her world. "No problem," Malcolm replied, his tone even almost disarmingly calm. "Just a small mix-up with the guest list." Victoria's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I don't recall seeing your name on our list," she said, her words laced with a subtle challenge. Around them, heads turned. The elite sensed drama like sharks scenting blood. Phone cameras lifted discreetly, their lenses glinting under the chandelier light. Marcus Jr., already filming for his Instagram story, zoomed in, his smirk audible in his muttered caption, "When gatecrashers try to play high society." The live stream's viewer count ticked upward, 500, 700, 1,000 comments, scrolling with a mix of amusement and venom. "Who's this guy? Security's about to yeet him." Karen vibes incoming. Catherine Whitmore joined her daughter, her pearl necklace gleaming as she tilted her head with a practiced air of concern. "The help should know their place," she said, her voice soft but sharp, the word help dripping with coded disdain. A murmur of agreement rippled through the nearby guests, their nods subtle but unmistakable. James Sr., standing a few paces away, adjusted his bow tie and gave a curt nod to the approaching security guards. "Handle this," he said, his Rolex flashing as he gestured. The family formed a loose semicircle around Malcolm, their unified front a silent declaration of power. Two guards in black suits approached the taller one, resting a hand on his radio. "Sir, we need to see your invitation," he said, his tone professional but firm. Malcolm, unfazed, handed over the cream-colored card. The guard examined it, his frown deepening as he turned it over in his hands. "This appears legitimate," he admitted, his voice uncertain. Victoria's laugh was sharp, like glass breaking. "Appears," she echoed, crossing her arms. "James, darling, didn't the club update their security protocols? Invitations can be forged, you know." Her father nodded, his voice carrying the weight of decades in boardrooms. "Sometimes they get misplaced. Or photocopied," he said, the accusation hanging heavy in the air. The crowd pressed closer, their champagne flutes forgotten as the scene unfolded. A woman in designer glasses held her phone higher, her Instagram Live now at 2,000 viewers and climbing. Comments flooded in, "Get him out. This is why we need better security. Bet he's here for the free food." Marcus Jr.'s phone captured every angle, his followers eating up the drama. "Content gold," he muttered, his smirk widening as the view count hit 5,000. Malcolm, still composed, adjusted his portfolio and checked his steel watch. The time read 8:47 p.m. Have you ever been underestimated so completely that people couldn't see the power standing right in front of them? He asked, his voice low but clear, carrying across the marble floor. The question landed like a stone in still water, rippling through the crowd. A few guests exchanged uneasy glances, sensing something shift. But the Whitmores remained oblivious, their confidence unshaken. Victoria leaned in, her voice loud enough for the growing audience. "Oh, this should be good," she said, her tone dripping with mockery. The taller guard tried again. "Sir, if you could step aside, we can sort this out privately." Malcolm's eyes met his, steady and unflinching. Privately, he repeated, a faint edge to his voice that made the guard hesitate. "I think we're well past that." James Sr. checked his Rolex, his impatience palpable. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an announcement in precisely 12 minutes, he said, his voice booming with authority. "Let's expedite this situation." The announcement was the night's centerpiece, the $1 billion Meridian partnership that would redefine the Whitmore Foundation's legacy. Catherine chimed in, her tone syrupy but sharp. "We can't have disruptions during such an important evening." A Bloomberg reporter in the corner looked up from his phone, his interest piqued. He recognized the name Malcolm Carter, though he couldn't yet place why. Malcolm noticed the reporter's expression shift and allowed a slight smile to touch his lips, the first crack in his composed facade. "I understand your position, Mr. Whitmore," he said, his voice calm but weighted. "Time is valuable, especially when billions are at stake." The irony was lost on James Sr., who nodded approvingly. "Exactly," he said. "I'm glad you understand the significance of this evening." Victoria gestured toward the service elevator bank, her smile tight. "The main elevators are reserved for our guests tonight," she said. "I'm sure you understand." It was a deliberate humiliation directing Malcolm toward the servants' exit in front of 200 of New York's elite. The Instagram Live count surged to 10,000 comments, exploding with hashtags like #WhitmoreGala and #EliteDrama. "Send him to the back door, LOL." This is why I don't go to these bougie events. But the digital storm brewing outside the penthouse remained invisible to the Whitmores, who stood smug in their marble bubble. Marcus Jr. added a caption to his story, "When networking goes wrong." Standards. The Bloomberg reporter David Kim opened his laptop, his fingers hovering as he watched Malcolm's reaction. Malcolm took a step toward the service elevators, then paused. His phone buzzed, a text message lighting up the screen. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted subtly, not to anger, but to resolve. "Actually," he said, turning back to face the family, "I think I'll wait for the main elevators." Victoria's voice rose, sharp and incredulous. "Excuse me." Malcolm's tone remained conversational, but there was steel beneath it. "I said I'll wait. I have some calls to make while we sort this out." He retrieved his phone from his portfolio, the screen showing 3 missed calls from Meridian Industries' board. David Kim's eyes widened. He knew that name. He knew what it meant for tonight's announcement. The taller guard tried again, his voice uncertain. "Sir, we really need to." Malcolm cut him off, glancing at his watch. 11 minutes, Mr. Whitmore. Isn't that what you said? 11 minutes until your announcement." James Sr. nodded, his patience fraying. "Yes. And we can't have perfect," Malcolm interjected, dialing a number with deliberate precision. The phone rang once, twice. "Hello, Marcus," he said, his voice carrying across the marble floor. "Yes, I know you're prepping for the announcement, but we need to discuss the Meridian partnership." The blood drained from James Sr.'s face. Marcus Jr. lowered his phone, his smirk vanishing. Victoria's champagne glass trembled in her hand. Catherine whispered to her daughter, "Who's he talking to?" The Bloomberg reporter began typing his article, already taking shape. Whitmore Foundation, gala faces, unexpected drama as mystery guest challenges hosts. The Instagram live count hit 15,000 comments streaming like wildfire. "This guy's about to wreck them. Who is he?" "Whitmores are done." Malcolm continued, "System. The artifact has reached the character limit for a single response. To continue the story and meet the 10,000 character requirement for Chapter 1, I'll need to provide the remaining content in a follow-up response. However, since you requested the chapter to be written in one continuous piece without interruptions, I'll pause here and wait for your confirmation to proceed with the rest of the chapter in a new response. Please let me know how you'd like to proceed." The Meridian Club's penthouse was a frozen tableau, the air thick with the weight of Malcolm Carter's words. As he spoke into his phone, each syllable slicing through the marble and crystal silence. "Yes, Marcus, I understand the contracts were finalized last week," he said, his voice calm, but carrying the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. "But we're pulling the Meridian partnership, effective immediately." The crowd of Manhattan's elite gasped collectively, their champagne flutes forgotten. Their eyes locked on the man in the unassuming navy suit who had just detonated a corporate bomb. James Whitmore Sr., his Rolex suddenly looking like a relic of a bygone era, stumbled backward, his hand groping for the marble pillar behind him. His face, moments ago, a mask of boardroom authority, was now the color of ash, his bow tie askew as if it could no longer bear the weight of his crumbling empire. Victoria, her emerald gown no longer a symbol of power, but a spotlight, on her shock gripped her father's arm, her manicured nails digging into his sleeve. "Daddy, what's he talking about?" she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of confusion and dread. Catherine, clutching her pearl necklace like a lifeline, murmured Meridian. "Isn't that the deal, Marcus Jr.?" His phone still streaming to an Instagram audience now surging past 20,000 viewers. Froze his fingers, hovering over the screen. As the comments exploded, he just canceled $1 billion. Who is this guy? Whitmore's are toast. Malcolm Carter ended the call with a deliberate tap, sliding his phone back into his portfolio with the same calm he'd maintained since stepping into the penthouse. He turned to face the Whitmore family, his steel watch catching the chandelier light, its understated design now radiating authority. "Let me clarify," he said, his voice steady, each word measured like a chess move in a game he'd already won. "Carter Enterprises holds a 35% stake in Whitmore Industries. As the largest shareholder, I have certain privileges." The revelation hit like a shockwave, rippling through the crowd and sending whispers racing across the marble floor. David Kim, the Bloomberg reporter, typed frantically, his laptop screen glowing with the beginnings of a headline: "Mystery guest at Whitmore Gala reveals majority stake cancels $1 deal." The Instagram live count climbed to 25,000 hashtags like Whitmore downfall and $1 billion burn, trending across New York. Marcus Jr.'s followers, now a digital mob, flooded his stream with fire emojis and demands for answers. "Bro, you messed with the wrong dude. This is better than Netflix." James Sr. found his voice, though it emerged as a croak. "Dr. Carter, surely there's been a misunderstanding," he said, his hands trembling as he adjusted his cufflinks. "The Meridian partnership is critical to our company's future, to thousands of jobs." Malcolm's eyes met his unflinching, a quiet intensity that made the room feel smaller. "Jobs are important, Mr. Whitmore," he said. "But so is integrity. Your family's actions tonight, your assumptions, your accusations, demonstrate a fundamental misalignment with Carter Enterprises' values." Victoria stepped forward, her voice sharp but unsteady. "You can't just cancel $1 billion deal over a personal slight." Malcolm tilted his head slightly, his expression almost curious. "Personal slight," he repeated the words, hanging in the air like a challenge. "You questioned my right to be here, suggested I forged my invitation and directed me to the service elevator, in front of 200 witnesses and a growing digital audience. That's not personal, Ms. Whitmore. That's a public statement about your company's culture." The crowd pressed closer, their earlier amusement replaced by a tense anticipation. A woman in a sequined dress lowered her phone, her Instagram live now at 30,000 viewers. The comments, a chaotic mix of support and outrage. "He's reading them for filth." Whitmore's thought they could flex. LOL. "This guy's a legend." Dr. Elizabeth Harper, a prominent attorney in the crowd, stepped forward, her voice cautious but firm. "Mr. Whitmore, perhaps we should de-escalate and discuss this privately." Catherine, her pearl necklace gleaming under the chandelier light, cut her off. "This is a family matter." "Elizabeth," she said, her tone icy, "we have standards to maintain." Malcolm's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but something sharper. "Standards," he echoed. "Interesting choice of words, Mrs. Whitmore. Let's talk about standards." He reached into his portfolio and withdrew a single sheet of paper, cream-colored, with Carter Enterprises letterhead. "This is a copy of our shareholder agreement," he said, holding it up for the crowd to see. "It outlines our expectations for corporate governance, including ethical conduct and inclusive practices. Your actions tonight violate those terms." The taller security guard, now visibly uncomfortable, whispered into his radio. "Control, we need the club manager up here." The second guard shifted his weight, his hand still on his radio, unsure whether to intervene or stand back. Malcolm continued undeterred. "As the largest shareholder, I'm calling an emergency board meeting for Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp," he said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "We'll discuss leadership changes, corporate culture reforms, and a new direction for Whitmore Industries. James Sr.'s face went pale, his hand clutching the marble pillar for support. "You can't do that," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Malcolm's eyes locked onto his, steady and unrelenting. "I already have," he said. "The board will hear my recommendations, and given recent events, I expect significant support." The Instagram live count hit 40,000, the comments a digital wildfire. "He's about to take their whole company. This is what power looks like." Whitmores are shook. Victoria, her composure cracking, tried to regain control. "Dr. Carter, let's be reasonable," she said, her voice trembling despite her effort to sound authoritative. "This partnership is worth $1 billion over 3 years. It's transformative for education, for communities, for your legacy." Malcolm interjected, his tone calm but cutting. "But legacies built on exclusion don't last, Ms. Whitmore. Carter Enterprises invests in partners who share our commitment to equity and innovation. Tonight, your family showed the world exactly where you stand." The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably as the weight of his words settled over them. David Kim's fingers flew across his keyboard, his article now titled "Whitmore Industries Faces Hostile Takeover Threat as Shareholder Reveals 35% Stake." The Bloomberg reporter knew this was the story of his career, a real-time unraveling of one of New York's most powerful dynasties. Marcus Jr., his phone now trembling in his hands, scrolled through Google results for Carter Enterprises. The search confirmed his worst fears. Dr. Malcolm Carter, CEO, Carter Enterprises, $50 billion in assets under management. Harvard, MBA, Stanford, PhD in economics, Forbes, 30 under 30 alum. His stomach dropped as he read the Forbes headline, "The Man Who Redefined Sustainable Investing." Marcus whispered to himself, "Oh God, we're screwed." His Instagram story, now at 50,000 views, was backfiring spectacularly, the comments turning against him. "You really filmed yourself mocking this guy, a privileged checkmate. Delete your account, bro." The hashtag #WhitmoreRacist began trending, amassing 500,000 impressions in minutes. Catherine, her pearl necklace now feeling like a noose, fanned herself with her auction paddle. "James, call Richard," she said, her voice shaking. "Call someone." But James Sr. knew there was no one to call. Not when the man standing before them held 35% of their company's stock and the power to reshape their future. Malcolm checked his watch, 8:55 p.m., and addressed the crowd, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who'd navigated boardrooms and crises alike. In 10 minutes, the Whitmore Foundation was set to announce a partnership that would have defined their legacy, he said. Instead, they've shown the world what they value: exclusion over inclusion, assumption over evidence, privilege over accountability. The crowd was silent. The violinist in the corner, the only sound her notes now jarringly out of place. Dr. Harper tried again, her voice softer. "Dr. Carter, perhaps." "We could—" Malcolm raised a hand, not rudely but firmly silencing her. "I appreciate the suggestion, Dr. Harper," he said, "but this isn't a negotiation. It's a reckoning." The word landed like a gavel, final and unyielding. The security guards exchanged glances, their earpieces buzzing with urgent instructions from the club manager, who was now rushing to the penthouse. Victoria, desperate to salvage something, stepped closer to Malcolm. "Dr. Carter? We made a mistake," she said, her voice cracking. "A terrible mistake. But destroying our company won't fix it." Malcolm's eyes met hers, his expression unreadable. "I'm not destroying your company, Ms. Whitmore," he said. "I'm saving it. Carter Enterprises doesn't tolerate partners who undermine our mission. And we don't play games with billion-dollar deals. The crowd gasped again, the reality sinking in that this wasn't just a personal confrontation, but a corporate earthquake. David Kim's article was already live, the headline screaming across Bloomberg feeds, Whitmore Industries reels as largest shareholder, cancels one-year deal, calls for leadership overhaul. The Instagram live count hit 60,000, the comments a torrent of support for Malcolm King Energy. He's rewriting the game. This is how you handle privilege. James Sr. made one last attempt to regain control, his voice hoarse but determined. Dr. Carter, think of the employees, the 23,000 people who depend on Whitmore Industries. This partnership was for them, for their communities. Malcolm nodded his expression, almost sympathetic. I am thinking of them, Mr. Whitmore, he said. That's why I'm calling for a board meeting. To protect those jobs, to ensure your company aligns with values that prioritize people over privilege. Carter Enterprises specializes in turnarounds that preserve worker interests while driving growth. You'll see that on Monday. The promise was both a reassurance and a threat, a reminder of the power he wielded. The event coordinator's voice crackled through her headset, barely audible. 8 minutes to announcement. But everyone in the room knew there would be no announcement tonight. The Whitmore Foundation's biggest moment had become its worst nightmare. Malcolm's phone buzzed again, another text from Meridian's board. He glanced at it, his expression unchanging, then addressed the family directly. You have until Monday to prepare your board presentation, he said. I suggest you use the time wisely. The world is watching. The Instagram live count surged to 75,000, the digital audience now a global chorus demanding accountability. Comments poured in. He's got them shaking. This is what justice looks like. Whitmore's thought they were untouchable. Marcus Jr. lowered his phone, his hands shaking, as he realized his Instagram story had been shared 10,000 times. The hashtag had Whitmore racist, now trending nationwide. David Kim hit publish on a follow-up article, his fingers trembling with the weight of the moment. Dr. Malcolm Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises, takes control of Whitmore Industries in viral showdown. The penthouse, once a symbol of untouchable wealth, was now a stage for a new kind of power, one rooted in strategy, integrity, and the unrelenting demand for change. As the clock ticked closer to the scheduled announcement, the crowd's energy shifted from shock to awe. Malcolm Carter stood alone, a figure of quiet strength, in a room built on old money, his navy suit and steel watch now symbols of a new order. The Whitmores, their empire teetering, faced a reality they hadn't anticipated. The man they'd mocked was the one holding their future in his hands. And as the Instagram live count climbed to 80,000, the world waited to see what he would do next. The Meridian Club's penthouse, once a glittering stage for Manhattan's elite, now felt like a courtroom where the Whitmore family stood trial. The crystal chandeliers still cast their prismatic light, but the air was heavy with the aftermath of Dr. Malcolm Carter's bombshell. His announcement, canceling the $1 billion Meridian partnership and revealing his 35% stake in Whitmore Industries, had left the room in stunned silence, the only sound the faint hum of the event coordinator's headset, and the relentless ping of Marcus Jr.'s phone as his Instagram live count soared past 100,000 viewers. The hashtag #WhitmoreRacist trended globally, amassing 1.2 million impressions with comments flooding in. This guy just flipped their whole world. Whitmores thought they were untouchable. Malcolm Carter is a legend. James Whitmore Sr. leaned heavily against the marble pillar, his Rolex no longer a symbol of power, but a reminder of a legacy slipping through his fingers. Victoria, her emerald gown now a glaring spotlight on her vulnerability, clutched her champagne flute so tightly it threatened to shatter. Catherine's pearl necklace seemed to choke her, her face pale as she whispered, "James, do something." Marcus Jr., his phone now a liability, stared at the screen where Google results for Dr. Malcolm Carter painted a terrifying picture. CEO of Carter Enterprises, $50 billion in assets under management, architect of sustainable corporate turnarounds. The family was cornered and the world was watching. Malcolm Carter stood at the center of the storm, his navy suit and steel watch radiating an authority that dwarfed the Whitmores' old money opulence. He addressed the crowd with the calm precision of a man who'd orchestrated boardroom victories before. "This isn't about revenge," he said, his voice carrying across the marble floor. "It's about accountability. Whitmore Industries has 23,000 employees, communities that depend on its success. But success built on exclusion and bias isn't sustainable. Carter Enterprises will ensure that changes starting Monday morning." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "I've called an emergency board meeting to address leadership, governance, and corporate culture. The board will hear my recommendations, and I expect swift action." David Kim, the Bloomberg reporter, typed furiously, his article now headlined, "Whitmore Industries faces overhaul. As largest shareholder demands reform after viral gala incident." The Instagram live comments exploded. "He's taking their company apart, piece by piece. This is how you handle business. Whitmores are done for." James Sr. tried to muster his boardroom gravitas, his voice hoarse but defiant. "Dr. Carter, you're jeopard of throwing away a century of our family's work over one misunderstanding," he said, his hands trembling as he adjusted his bow tie. Malcolm's eyes met his, steady and unyielding. "A misunderstanding," he repeated, his tone calm but sharp. "Your family publicly questioned my right to be here, implied I was a fraud, and tried to escort me out through the service elevator. That's not a misunderstanding, Mr. Whitmore. That's a reflection of your values." The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably as the truth landed. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the attorney, stepped forward again, her voice measured. "Dr. Carter, perhaps we could move this to a private setting to avoid further escalation." Malcolm acknowledged her with a nod, his expression respectful but firm. "I appreciate your intent, Dr. Harper, but this moment requires transparency. The world is watching, and they deserve to know what happens next." Victoria, desperation creeping into her voice, tried to pivot. "Dr. Carter, we acknowledge our mistake," she said, her emerald gown catching the light as she gestured. "But dismantling our company won't solve anything. Let's work together to find a solution." Malcolm's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but something colder. "Solutions start with accountability, Ms. Whitmore," he said. "And accountability starts with consequences." He reached into his portfolio and withdrew another document. This one, a formal letter on Carter Enterprises letterhead. "This is my proposal to the board," he said, holding it up. "It includes 3 immediate actions: suspension of senior leadership, pending an investigation into corporate culture, mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all executives, and the establishment of a $50 million fund to support minority-owned businesses." The crowd gasped, the scale of his demands sinking in. David Kim's fingers flew across his keyboard, updating his article, "Carter Enterprises proposes $50 million. Minority Business Fund, leadership suspensions at Whitmore Industries." The event coordinator's voice crackled through her headset. now tinged with panic. 5 minutes to announcement, or whatever we're doing now? But the announcement was dead replaced by a corporate crisis unfolding in real time. Marcus Jr.'s phone pinged relentlessly. His Instagram story now shared 20,000 times the comments, "A digital guillotine. You filmed yourself mocking a billionaire career suicide speedrun." Whitmore, racist, is trending worldwide. He whispered to Victoria, "Sis, this is bad. He's got us by the throat." Victoria's face paled, her champagne flute finally slipping from her fingers and shattering on the marble floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Catherine clutched her husband's arm, her voice barely audible. "James, call the board. Call Richard. Call anyone." But James Sr.'s eyes were fixed on Malcolm, his expression a mix of fear and resignation. He knew no lawyer could undo what had been broadcast to 120,000 viewers and counting. Malcolm checked his steel watch 8:58 p.m. and addressed the family directly. "You have until Monday to prepare your case for the board," he said. "I suggest you focus on how you'll align with Carter Enterprises' mission, equity, innovation, and social responsibility. Anything less will be unacceptable." The taller security guard, now visibly out of his depth, whispered into his radio, "Manager's here. What do we do?" The club manager, a harried man in a black suit, pushed through the crowd. His face flushed. "Dr. Carter, I apologize for any confusion," he said, his voice strained. "We'll verify your invitation immediately." Malcolm raised a hand, silencing him. "The invitation was verified 10 minutes ago," he said. "The issue isn't my presence. It's what your guests chose to do about it." The manager faltered, glancing at the Whitmores, who stood frozen, their empire unraveling before their eyes. The Instagram live count hit 150,000, the comments a tidal wave of support for Malcolm. He's rewriting their whole company. This is what power looks like. Black excellence on full display. A woman in a gold dress, her phone streaming to TikTok, whispered to her companion, "This is going viral. CNN's already calling. The hashtag #Squanders." Whitmore downfall amassed 2 million impressions, with clips of Malcolm's calm dismantling of the family spreading across platforms. David Kim's article, now live on Bloomberg, was picked up by Reuters and the Wall Street Journal. The financial world buzzing with the implications of Carter Enterprises' move. Malcolm turned to the crowd, his voice steady but resonant. "This isn't just about one family or one company," he said. "It's about what we tolerate in our institutions. Carter Enterprises invests in progress, not prejudice. And we're just getting started." The room shifted, the energy moving from shock to anticipation. Dr. Harper, sensing the moment's gravity, approached Malcolm again. "Dr. Carter, I represent several shareholders," she said. "I'd like to discuss how we can support your vision." Malcolm nodded, his expression professional but warm. "I'll be in touch after Monday's meeting," he said. "We'll need allies who share our values." The crowd murmured, some guests already calculating how to align with Carter Enterprises' rising star. James Sr., his voice barely audible, tried one last plea. "Dr. Carter, our employees, 23,000 people depend on us." This partnership was their future. Malcolm's eyes softened, but his resolve didn't waver. "Their future is exactly why I'm doing this," he said. "Whitmore Industries will thrive, but not under leadership that dismisses people based on assumptions. We'll protect those jobs, Mr. Whitmore, but we'll do it right." Monday morning arrived like a storm breaking over Whitmore Industries' headquarters. The boardroom, with its mahogany panels, and panoramic views of Manhattan felt claustrophobic as the board members filed in their faces a mix of apprehension and curiosity. Malcolm entered precisely at 9 a.m., flanked by 2 attorneys and a corporate governance expert from Carter Enterprises. His navy suit was the same, his steel watch still understated, but his presence transformed the room into an operating theater. James Sr. sat at what was once the head of the table, now feeling like a defendant's chair. Victoria Marcus Jr. and Catherine sat together, their usual confidence replaced by a palpable dread. The board meeting was live-streamed internally to Whitmore Industries employees, a move Malcolm insisted on for transparency. Across 12 states, 23,000 workers watched as their company's future hung in the balance. Malcolm opened the meeting with a prepared statement, his voice steady and authoritative. Carter Enterprises holds a 35% stake in Whitmore Industries. He said, his words projected on screens for employees to see. As the largest shareholder, we have a responsibility to ensure this company reflects values of equity and accountability. The events at the Meridian Club exposed a culture that undermines those values. Today, we begin the process of change. He outlined his proposals: immediate suspension of Victoria as CEO and Marcus Jr. as COO, pending an investigation into their conduct. Mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all executives designed by Harvard Business School's equity experts. And a $50 million fund to support minority-owned businesses, with Carter Enterprises providing seed funding and Whitmore Industries matching it for 3 years. The board members exchanged glances, some nodding in approval, others hesitant but aware of Malcolm's voting power. Victoria, her voice shaking, stood to respond. "Dr. Carter, I acknowledge our error," she said, her emerald earrings a faint echo of her gala confidence. "But suspending leadership will destabilize the company. Our employees deserve stability." Malcolm leaned forward, his expression calm but unyielding. "Stability built on bias isn't stability. Ms. Whitmore," he said, "your employees deserve leadership that respects every stakeholder. That starts with accountability." The board voted swiftly. Victoria's suspension passed 7-2. Marcus Jr.'s removal was unanimous, and Catherine's resignation from the foundation board was accepted without debate. The $50 million fund was approved operational within 72 hours. Employees watching the live stream erupted in applause, at some locations their faith in the company's future restored by Malcolm's vision. Outside the boardroom, the digital storm continued. The Instagram live video from the gala, now with 3 million views, was dissected on every major news outlet. CNN ran a segment titled "The Night Corporate America Changed," featuring clips of Malcolm's confrontation. The hashtag #Whitmore Racist reached 5 million impressions, but a new hashtag, #Carter Reforms, began trending with posts praising Malcolm's strategic brilliance. This man just saved a company while calling out its flaws. Black power in the boardroom. Whitmore's learned the hard way. David Kim's Bloomberg article, updated with the board meeting's outcomes, went viral, shared by business leaders and activists alike. Whitmore Industries' stock price dipped 20% in pre-market trading, but analysts predicted a recovery if Malcolm's reforms took hold. Back in the boardroom, Malcolm addressed the remaining agenda items. Whitmore Industries will implement a dignity protocol, he said, outlining a comprehensive program of quarterly diversity training, anonymous reporting mechanisms for workplace bias, and a public dashboard tracking hiring and promotion metrics. Transparency is non-negotiable, he added. This company will lead its industry in inclusive excellence, or it will answer to its shareholders. The board approved the protocol, unanimously aware that Malcolm's 35% stake gave him unmatched influence. James Sr., his voting privileges suspended for 6 months, sat silently, his face a mask of resignation. Victoria, now facing mandatory sensitivity training, starting Wednesday, stared at her hands, the weight of her actions sinking in. Marcus Jr., his LinkedIn profile updated with a statement acknowledging his documented, unprofessional conduct, looked shell-shocked, his social media empire crumbling under the weight of his own footage. As the meeting adjourned, Malcolm addressed the employees via the live stream. "You are the heart of Whitmore Industries," he said, his voice resonant with conviction. "Carter Enterprises is committed to your future, a future where every worker is valued, every voice is heard, and every opportunity is earned. We start today." The applause from employees echoed through the headquarters, a sound of hope amidst the wreckage. Outside, the digital world continued to churn with TikTok videos and Twitter threads analyzing Malcolm's strategy. A LinkedIn post by a former Whitmore employee went viral. "I worked for Whitmore for 10 years. Tonight, I saw a company I can be proud of again. Thank you, Dr. Carter." The post garnered 50,000 likes, a testament to the ripple effect of Malcolm's actions. The Whitmore family left the boardroom in silence, their dynasty forever altered. Victoria, facing weeks of training and a psychological evaluation, began to grapple with the biases that had shaped her leadership. Marcus Jr., stripped of his title, faced a public reckoning, his Instagram account now a cautionary tale. Catherine, her foundation work redirected toward supporting minority entrepreneurs, clutched her pearl necklace, its pearls now symbols of a painful but necessary awakening. Malcolm, meanwhile, returned to Carter Enterprises' offices, where his team was already drafting plans for the $50 million fund. The financial world watched closely, with ESG investors praising Carter Enterprises' bold move. Whitmore Industries, once a symbol of old money privilege, was now a case study in corporate accountability. Its future tied to the vision of a man who'd turned a moment of prejudice into a movement for change. The marble floors of the Meridian Club's penthouse no longer gleamed with the untouchable arrogance of old money. They now reflected a new reality, one reshaped by Dr. Malcolm Carter's strategic brilliance and unyielding commitment to accountability. Weeks had passed since the Whitmore Foundation's gala imploded under the weight of a viral confrontation, and the ripple effects were still reshaping corporate America. The Instagram live video, now with 5 million views, had become a cultural touchstone, dissected in boardrooms, classrooms, and newsrooms worldwide. Hashtags like #CarterReforms and #Whitmore Reckoning dominated social media, amassing 10 million impressions and sparking a global conversation about power, privilege, and transformation. Whitmore Industries, once a symbol of exclusionary wealth, was now a case study in redemption, its future tied to the reforms Malcolm had set in motion. The financial world watched closely, with Bloomberg, Reuters, and the Wall Street Journal publishing follow-ups to David Kim's viral article now headlined, "Whitmore Industries Reborn: How Dr. Malcolm Carter's Vision Saved a Corporate Dynasty." But this was no longer just about one company or one family. It was about a movement, a legacy, and a lesson in what true power could achieve when wielded with purpose. Monday's emergency board meeting had been the spark, but the transformation of Whitmore Industries unfolded over weeks, each step a testament to Malcolm's vision of dignity-driven capitalism. The $50 million Minority Business Development Fund, seeded by Carter Enterprises and matched by Whitmore Industries, was operational within 72 hours, already partnering with Black, Latino, and Indigenous entrepreneurs across 12 states. The Dignity Protocol, now a cornerstone of the company's operations, mandated quarterly diversity training, anonymous bias reporting, and a public dashboard tracking hiring, promotion, and retention metrics. Employees, once skeptical of leadership's intentions, embraced the changes with satisfaction scores rising 25% in internal surveys. The company's stock, which had plummeted 20% after the gala, rebounded within a month, as ESG investors poured in, drawn by Whitmore's authentic commitment to inclusion. A new partnership with a consortium of minority-owned suppliers replaced the cancelled Meridian deal, creating 1,500 jobs and cutting operational costs by 10%. The financial press hailed it as a model for sustainable restructuring, with Forbes running a cover story, Dr. Malcolm Carter, the man who turned bias into opportunity. The Whitmore family, once untouchable, faced a personal reckoning that mirrored the company's transformation. Victoria, suspended as CEO, enrolled in Harvard Business School's Diversity and Inclusion program, a 40-hour course that forced her to confront the unconscious biases that had shaped her leadership. The psychological evaluation was humbling, revealing patterns of privilege she'd never acknowledged. In a candid interview 6 months later with CNBC, she admitted, "I thought success gave me the right to judge who belonged in my world. I was wrong, and it cost us everything." Her transformation wasn't just personal. She hired 3 vice presidents from HBCUs and a Native American supply chain director, reshaping Whitmore's leadership to reflect the diversity Malcolm demanded. Marcus Jr., stripped of his COO title, turned his Instagram account, once a platform for privileged mockery, into a space for amplifying minority voices in business. His first post, a raw apology titled "The Night I Learned Better," garnered 2 million views, with comments praising his accountability. "This is how you grow. Respect for owning it." Catherine, her pearl necklace now a symbol of her pivot, redirected the Whitmore Foundation to support Black and Latino entrepreneurs, partnering with Howard and Morehouse colleges to fund 200 startups annually. Her Pearl initiative boasted a 95% success rate, earning her a feature in Essence magazine. Malcolm Carter, meanwhile, remained the quiet force behind the transformation. He didn't seek the CEO role at Whitmore Industries, instead recommending Dr. Angela Ruiz, a Stanford MBA with 20 years of experience in sustainable business practices. Her appointment, approved unanimously by the board, marked a new era for the company. Dr. Ruiz launched a listening tour, meeting workers, community leaders, and suppliers in every state where Whitmore operated. Her findings shaped a new mission statement: building partnerships that honor dignity, equity, and innovation for all stakeholders. The statement wasn't just words, it was a blueprint, reflected in the company's 27% increase in customer loyalty and 19% revenue growth within 6 months. Malcolm's influence extended beyond Whitmore, as Carter Enterprises' portfolio companies, 12 in total, adopted similar dignity protocols, impacting 8 million employees across North America. The business case was undeniable. Companies with inclusive policies saw 20% higher revenue and 25% better retention numbers that made Wall Street take notice. The broader impact was seismic. The Corporate Dignity Alliance, founded 3 months after the gala, grew to include 500 companies employing 10 million people. Its charter, inspired by Malcolm's reforms, required measurable inclusion metrics and public accountability. Victoria joined the Alliance's advisory board, her journey from privilege to responsibility, now a case study in leadership programs at Wharton and INSEAD. Marcus Jr.'s new podcast, Privilege Check, reached 3 million listeners monthly, each episode dissecting how bias shapes corporate decisions. His most popular episode, "The Night I Wasn't the Main Character," had 10 million downloads, with listeners calling it a masterclass in accountability. Catherine's foundation work earned her an invitation to speak at the United Nations Global Compact, where she shared the stage with Malcolm, who delivered the keynote. "Power isn't about destruction," he told the audience of 600 global leaders. "It's about building something better." Dignity isn't a buzzword. It's a strategy that creates value. The applause lasted 3 minutes, a standing ovation that echoed the impact of his vision. The lessons of that night at the Meridian Club were profound, woven into the fabric of Whitmore Industries and beyond. The original Instagram live video, now a staple in business school curricula, was analyzed at Harvard for crisis management, at Stanford for stakeholder capitalism, and at Oxford for corporate ethics. It wasn't just a story of confrontation. It was a blueprint for transformation. Malcolm's approach, strategic rather than punitive, systemic rather than symbolic, showed that change could be both principled and profitable. Whitmore Industries' quarterly reports now included diversity metrics alongside financials, with employee satisfaction and community impact given equal weight to profit margins. The company, once on the brink of collapse, became an industry leader in inclusive excellence, with 0 discrimination complaints in its first year post-reform. The marble penthouse, where it all began, now hosted monthly Dignity Dialogues, where executives and employees discussed workplace culture and respect, a far cry from the elitism of that fateful gala. For those who watched the video or read the headlines, the lesson was clear. Real change begins with accountability, not defensiveness. Malcolm didn't destroy the Whitmores. He gave them a chance to rebuild, to choose growth over grievance. His 35% stake in Whitmore Industries, once a threat, became a partnership model fostering supplier diversity programs that other Fortune 500 companies replicated. The financial return was impressive. Carter Enterprises saw a 30% annual return on its investment, but the human return was greater. Workers felt valued, communities saw opportunity, and an industry learned that dignity could drive success. The story resonated because it wasn't just about one man or one company. It was about the power of quiet strength, the triumph of intelligence over ignorance, and the possibility of redemption through action. What would you have done in Malcolm's shoes? Have you seen bias in your own workplace moments where assumptions overshadowed evidence? These questions linger because they matter. They challenge us to look at our own actions, to ask who we exclude and why. Share your story, because every voice counts in building a world where dignity isn't an afterthought, but a foundation. Subscribe to Black Voices Rising for more stories of brilliance and transformation, and hit that notification bell, because these narratives, these examples of excellence, deserve to be heard. Together, we're not just changing minds, we're changing systems, one strategic conversation at a time.